So I love Charities. They do such amazing work in the community here in the Bay Area, in California, all over the US, all over the world. We want to support them. And many of my clients are charitably inclined as well. So how can you work in gifts to your favorite charities? In this video, we're going to talk all about this. I do want to remind you to please like and subscribe so other people can learn more about these gifting ideas as well. Okay, so there's a lot of benefits to making gifts to charitable organizations. All right, one of them is you get to do what you believe in. You get to support a great cause that you love. Another benefit is you get a tax break. All right, you get an income tax deduction when you're making a gift during your lifetime, and any money that you leave to charities upon your death is free of estate taxes. So this is a way that our government encourages us to give to charities, to nonprofit organizations. And I love it. I'm all for it. Okay, so how can you incorporate leaving gifts to charities in your estate plan? Well, there's a couple of different options. One way, if you want to make gifts of smaller amounts, like let's say, $5,000, $50,000 to a few charities, I usually recommend leaving those gifts, we call that off the top. Before anything goes to the main recipients, say your children or grandchildren, you'd say, okay, I want $50,000 to go to NAMI, San Mateo County. I want, $50,000 to go to Planned Parenthood. And then the rest of it, I want to go equally to my kids. So why do I suggest cash gifts off the top? Because sometimes people will say, well, Ellen, you know what I think I'll do? I'll do something really creative. And let me say, in estate planning, creative is not always the best approach, okay? But they'll say maybe, I want 1% to go to NAMI and 1% to Planned Parenthood, and then, 48% to this child and 49% to this child and 1% here, right? Well, something that adds up to 100, right? Now, you think, okay, well, that'll be great, except that means that the charity, when you die, is entitled to all of the accountings, and they can contest the trust. Charities tend to be aggressive. Upon your death, they want to make sure that they get all the money that they're entitled to. So whoever's the successor trustee is required to do a full accounting of all the money that came in and went out after you died, so that the charity can make sure that they're getting every penny of what they're entitled to. Let me just give you a little hint. This is really a pain, okay? But if you leave a cash gift amount to the charity, it doesn't matter on the back end what came in, what went out. The charity's getting $50,000 no matter what, okay? And you don't have to send them a full copy of the trust. They get their $50,000, they're happy, they're on their way. So usually I suggest for smaller gifts, you make a cash gift and not a gift of a percentage of the residue. Okay, so maybe you don't have kids, or you don't like your kids. Sometimes that happens. Or you just want to leave things to charities. You can say, okay, I want everything to go, equally to these 4 charities, or this percentage to this charity and this percentage to that charity. That's totally fine. What I usually suggest you put in your trust is you put the full name of the charity and you put where they're located. This is really important because, like, let's say for Planned Parenthood, for example, right? There's chapters of Planned Parenthood, there's the national headquarters. If you don't specify which chapter and which location, then there's going to be fighting upon your death. And we don't want that. We want the money to be used for what you want it to be used for. We don't want it to be fought over. So you can, make sure to put in the name and the location. And also it helps to put in the tax ID number. You don't have to, but that'll specify exactly which charity. For example, there's a lot of charities that do like lung cancer work, right? And their names might be similar. But if you have that tax ID number in there, you can make sure that it goes to the charity that you're specifying. Okay, so one helpful tip is actually to go online to the organization that you want to make gifts to. Like, I want to give, actually, Stanford is right in my backyard. I went to Cal, go Bears, but Stanford is fine too, right? So let's say you want to make a gift to Stanford. Well, you wouldn't just say Stanford University, because that's not what they want you to say. So you go onto Stanford University and you look up bequest language. That's what this is called, a bequest. And they will give you that language online because they want you to write it in the correct way, or they want your attorney to. So a gift to Stanford University would actually be called, they say they want you to leave it to the Board of Trustees of Leland Stanford Junior University. It's a big mouthful. But that's the way, not Stanford University, but that full old thing, all right? And most charities now have that bequest language online. So you can look online and make sure that you use the language that they want.
Hey everyone, if you like my mom's video, like and subscribe.
You can also specify what you want the money to be used for. Like, let's say you're leaving money to NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness. I'm a big fan. Let's say you're leaving it to their Santa Clara County chapter. You can specify, I want this money to be used for peer programs, right? For peer-to-peer mentoring and programs. You can specify that. I do want to let you know, though, that most nonprofits would prefer that you name it for their general purposes. Because what if NAMI decides, these peer-to-peer programs, for some reason, they're just not working very well. We're going to start some new programs. Well, if you leave the money to them and say it's just to be used for this, then they're stuck. They can't really use the money for anything because they've discontinued that particular program. So generally, I suggest naming it for their general purposes. But if you have, if there's a university you're giving it to and you want it to be given to the engineering department there or the music department, that's totally fine as well. Now, what if you've named a charity in your trust and they don't exist anymore? Sometimes charities go under. It's hard to get grants and always get support for your nonprofit. So I like putting in the trust that, if a charity, actually I can do two things, all right? One approach is if a charity doesn't exist anymore, then it can go equally to the other charities that we've named. All right, so if you name 4 charities and one of them doesn't exist, then that quarter will be spread equally between the other 3 charities. Or you can say, that quarter should go to another charity with the same purposes as the now defunct charity, and the trustee of your trust gets to decide which charity that should be. Now, that's always a little bit iffy to me, to give the trustee that kind of power to decide which charity, because charities fight. They'll come up and they'll say, well, you should choose me because we're a lot more similar, so I hesitate to include that type of language, but you can. Now, here's an idea. If you are worried about charities going under, or you just want to leave a longer legacy, you should consider a donor-advised fund. Now, this is basically an account that you set up at a sponsoring organization, and once you transfer money in, that organization has legal control over it, but you as the donor, you get to decide how the money is distributed, what charities it goes to, what types of charities it goes to. So you can say, I want this money to go for pets, right? For animals that have been abandoned, right? And then the donor advised fund has the responsibility of finding the charities that fit the type of giving that you would like to have. Now, what's really cool about donor advised funds is you can actually set it up for longevity. You can say, when I'm gone, I want my kids to take over this legacy, and they get to decide what types of giving they're going to make, okay? So you can get them, that encourages them to be charitably inclined and to continue to work with that sponsoring organization to make sure that your giving has a lasting impact. It's really nice because in your trust, you can name, if my kids aren't alive, or a certain percentage goes to this donor advised fund, say at Schwab or at Silicon Valley Community Foundation. And then when you decide, I'm not so into supporting pets, can't imagine why somebody would decide that. But let's say somebody does, I would rather support environmental causes. And so they change that language. You don't have to change it in your trust. You just go to the donor advised fund and you can update the agreement with them and say, now this is the type of charitable giving I'd like to give. Okay, finally, I want to mention there are fancier ways to give monies to charity. All right, there's something called a charitable remainder trust, and I'm going to give you just a really brief overview of this. So the idea is you make a gift to an irrevocable trust, money goes into the trust, and then during your lifetime or somebody else's lifetime, you or that person gets an income stream. Okay, you get a certain amount of money each year, very nice. And then when you die or that other person dies, the remainder of the money goes to the charity. That's why it's called a charitable remainder trust. The charity gets the remainder of the money at the person's death. Now, the nice thing about that is when you put money into the trust, you get a deduction. You get an income tax deduction for the gift that you make. And the amount that goes to charity is not subject to income taxes or estate taxes. So cool, right? So this is a way to look out for your taxes and help charities as well. Super broad overview. I don't actually do charitable remainder trusts, though I may in the future. But I'm happy to give some referrals to people, but that just kind of gives you an idea of the more sophisticated planning you can do to help out your favorite charities. So please go out there and support your charities, and I hope that this really helps you and encourages you to leave money to charities when you're gone as well.
Hello everyone! If you liked my mom's video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you all next time!